Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Filipino-Style barbecued chicken. That's right, I'm going to show you how I make what might be the best barbecue chicken you probably have never had, which I should have already done since this really is incredible stuff. But I always hesitated because one of the main ingredients is banana ketchup, which I wasn't sure you could get. But then I remembered something very important. I actually teach people how to cook things. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by making a little bit of homemade banana ketchup, which is going to start with one very ripe banana. All right, if it's not turning black, put it back. And it really doesn't matter if parts of the banana are bruised and battered. As long as it's very ripe and sweet, it's going to be perfect for this. And then to our banana, we will add some tomato paste, which is one way to go here. Okay, we could just add some regular ketchup and shorten the ingredient list a bit, but I do prefer this formula. And then we'll also toss in some brown sugar, as well as some apple cider vinegar. Although if you have it, you're supposed to use banana peel vinegar, which you don't. And we'll also do a little bit of vegetable oil, followed by some freshly and finely grated ginger, some onion powder, some garlic powder, and of course, do not forget the cayenne. And then we will finish up by seasoning this with some allspice, as well as a little touch of turmeric, which if you haven't gotten the memo, prevents every disease. And then once everything's in there, we'll go ahead and take a masher, or I guess you could use the back of a fork, and we'll go ahead and mash that banana. And we don't need to get a perfect smooth puree here. Okay, those smaller pieces are going to break down as we cook this. And then once we have our mixture looking a little something like this, we will add the last ingredient, which is going to be a nice big splash of cold fresh water, which is not only going to help us rinse off our masher, but it will allow us to cook this for long enough for all the flavors to come together and not have the mixture get too thick too fast. And that's it. Once that's all been accomplished, we will head to the stove and we will place this over medium-high heat. And once this mixture starts simmering, we can give it a stir and reduce our heat to medium, at which point we're going to cook it for about 7 to 10 minutes, or until it reduces down and thickens up and kind of looks like banana ketchup. And as you know, whenever we're watching something simmer, we always try to remember what we forgot, which in my case this time was a big pinch of salt. So I went ahead and stirred that in, and I continued stirring and cooking and stirring, until my banana ketchup looked like this. At which point we can turn off the heat, because we're done. And if we were making this to use as a condiment, and we're going to bottle it, I probably would strain it. But for this recipe, we don't need to. But what we do need to do is grab a spoon and remove about 3 tablespoons of this to save to make our basting sauce with. So don't forget to do that. And then the rest of it we can add to a mixing bowl. And that is going to be the base for our Filipino-style barbecue marinade. Oh, and I should mention, if you can find banana ketchup, you could just skip this whole first part and just add about a half a cup of that to this bowl. But either way, to this we will add some crushed garlic, some brown sugar, as well as a whole bunch of soy sauce. In fact, so much we don't even need to add salt to this, or at least I'm not going to. But we will definitely toss in some freshly ground black pepper, and then the freshly squeezed juice of 1 lemon, and that's 1/2, and there's the other. And then we will finish up with our other secret ingredient, besides the banana ketchup, which is, believe it or not, some 7-Up. Or if you want instead, you could use Sprite, or if times are really tough, some off-brand lemon lime soda. And that's it. We'll take a whisk and give this a mix. And no, I guess you don't have to use the 7-Up. Okay, we could just add a little more sugar and some lemon and lime and get really close. But the risk is there's some magical thing the soda does that those things I just mentioned wouldn't do. And why take a chance? And that's it. Once we have that all mixed up, it's ready to soak our chicken in. And what I really think we want to use here are some nice big boneless, skinless chicken thighs that I like to cut in half. And as you know, chicken thighs kind of have a natural division between the two sides, and that is generally where we will cut. But one side of a chicken thigh is a little bigger than the other. So if you can, kind of cheat over towards that big side a little bit in an attempt to get these pieces as even as possible. And yes, you can use chicken breast, and no, you shouldn't. And I'll explain why on the grill later. And then once our chicken's cut, we'll go ahead and transfer it into our marinade, at which point we'll take our tongs and give these a very, very thorough tossing until every nook, as well as every single cranny, has been completely and totally coated. At which point we'll toss some plastic over the top, and we will transfer this into the fridge for a minimum of 4 hours, up to overnight. So we can do this in the morning if we're grilling in the afternoon, or just do it before you go to bed, and then you're pretty much ready to rock it any time the next day. And then at some point while our chicken's marinating, we can go ahead and mix up our basting sauce, which is nothing more than that reserved banana ketchup, plus some soy sauce, some brown sugar, a splash of vegetable oil, and then last but not least, one final secret ingredient, a little bit of Asian fish sauce. And that's it. We'll take a spoon and give this a mix. And if you don't use fish sauce, you could throw in a pinch of salt. But man, do you really need to start using fish sauce? Okay, it's not the best smelling product, but it has a proven track record for making food taste delicious. And that's it. Once that's mixed up, we'll simply set it aside. And assuming our chicken's marinated long enough, we'll pull it out. And we'll go ahead and place those on some metal skewers, or wooden skewers that we've soaked in water. And my strategy here is to simply fold those chicken thighs in half, with the smooth side on the outside and the rougher side being folded in. And by the way, you don't have to skewer these. You can just grill the chicken as is, but I really do think it looks better on the skewer. Plus, it takes way less space on the grill. And there are other advantages, but 2 is plenty. And in case you're keeping score at home, this was 2.5 pounds of chicken thighs, which made 3 nice big skewers, which should be enough to feed 6 standard humans, or 3 people like me. And that's it. Once those are done, we can wrap them up and pop them back in the fridge until we're ready to grill. But I am ready to grill. So let's head out to the deck and place these down over some nice hot charcoal. And it might not matter, but I do like to start with the smooth side down. And what I'll usually do is give this first side about 3 minutes, at which point we'll flip them over. And then once those have been turned over, we will begin the basting process, which means we're going to paint this side with our mixture, and then in 2 or 3 minutes we'll turn these back over, and we will paint the other side, and then we will repeat that process, basting these every time we turn, until we've run out of basting sauce, and or the chicken is cooked, which depending on the size of your chicken and how hot your grill is probably going to take between 15 and 20 minutes total cooking time. Oh, and regarding the basting sauce, that is sort of an optional step. You're definitely going to have a decent amount of that marinade left, and some people will simply use that to brush on, but I do prefer that separate sauce we mixed up since it's a little more concentrated. But anyway, you decide. I mean, you are after all the Enrique Iglesias of deciding the best way to baste this. But as I said, I do prefer this method. Plus, if you make the basting sauce from scratch, and you have a little bit extra, you can actually brush that over the cooked chicken, which we can't do with the marinade unless we cook it first. Unless we're trying to poison someone. And fair warning, when you use a marinade that has sugar in it, there is definitely going to be a good amount of charring, which is fine, and to a certain degree desirable. But what we do want to avoid is an entire black surface. And ironically, to prevent that from happening, we're applying this basting sauce which has sugar in it. But because we're applying it every 2 or 3 minutes when we turn these, we are actually protecting the layer underneath. And if everything goes according to plan, we'll definitely get some charred edges here and there. But most of the surface, hopefully, is going to caramelize into a gorgeous, beautiful shiny glaze. And as you know, whenever we grill on charcoal, there might be some spots that are hotter than others. So if you need to change the position these skewers are in, go ahead. As well as maybe turn them 180 degrees, just in case one side's hotter than the other. Or the breeze is pushing the heat to one side, which is definitely something that can happen. Oh, and that reminds me, why you don't want to use breasts here, I don't think. Alright, all these pieces are going to be a slightly different size, so we really can't pull these off the grill until the biggest chunks are cooked. And if we're using breasts, the smaller pieces might get dry and overcooked before that happens. But by using thighs, which are much more forgiving and not that easy to overcook, we really don't have that issue. Plus, I just think it tastes better. But anyway, like I said, we'll go ahead and cook those for about 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm just going to test these by giving them a poke. And once they firm up and spring back to the touch, they're usually done. Although feel free to test with a thermometer, where you should probably go to about 150 to 155. And that's it, we'll go ahead and pull those off the grill and head back inside. And not only is this one of the most delicious barbecue chicken recipes you will ever taste, it also has to be one of the most beautiful. I mean, look at that. Oh, and if you have a little bit of that basting sauce left over, go ahead and brush it on. But if you don't worry. I think plenty of that stuff caramelized on when we grilled. And then as far as service goes, I'm going to transfer mine onto a beautiful green chili rice salad, which once I perfect the recipe, I will show you. Oh, and if there was ever a time not to forget to pour over the accumulated juices from the plate, it would be this time. And yes, I also included some lime wedges, mostly for the pictures. And after taking a few of those, I went ahead and pulled out a skewer and dug in. And I'm not sure if it's the banana ketchup or the 7-Up or all those other things we added working together. But that, my friends, is one of the best barbecue chickens you will ever taste in your life. Just absolutely phenomenal in both flavor and texture. And I try not to describe the taste and texture of a recipe by comparing it to other recipes. But what this reminds me of is sort of a cross between a teriyaki chicken and a classic American-style barbecue chicken. Okay, it is kind of familiar, and yet at the same time very, very different, which I think makes it very exciting and extra enjoyable. And no, it does not taste like bananas, and no, it is not too sweet. Right, there's definitely a little bit of fruitiness there, playing off the citrus. But as far as the sweetness goes, I think it's nicely balanced with the acidity. So if you're a fan of regular barbecue chicken, or just good old-fashioned plain grilled chicken, I think you're going to be absolutely blown away by this. Which reminds me, even if you're not going to use this in a marinade or as a basting sauce, you should definitely whip up a batch of banana ketchup anyway, and then use it for whatever you use ketchup for, because it is some fabulous, fabulous stuff. And as Michelle described it, very chutney-like, which basically is exactly what it is. And since I did cut them up, I decided to squeeze on a little lime to see how that would affect the flavor. And it was nice, and obviously added a little bit of acidity, but if I'm being honest, I think I prefer it plain. But whether you squeeze that on or not, I think this is one of the most interesting and most delicious barbecue chicken recipes I've ever done, which is why I really do hope you give this a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.